excuse me, here's page 2. And I put the 2 perfect square trinomial patterns at the top of the paper for your convenience if you'd care to do these before looking at this video and seeing the solutions. The first one here, do we have something squared and double the product of those two things in the middle? Well, that's the square of x. That's the square of 10. If you do 10 times x, you get 10x. If you times that by 2, you do get exactly 20x. So, this is just x plus 10. I'm going to write it this way. You could write out x plus 10 times x plus 10, but you could just write it that way too. Next one over. Here's the square of x, and here's the square of 9, and if you do 9 times x and times 2, you get 18x. This says minus 18x, so no problem. You write x minus 9 squared. If you multiply out x minus 9 times x minus 9, you will get that back. Try it if you don't believe me. Let's look at this one. That's the square of x. 8 times 8 is 64. X times 8. Double it. 16x. Bingo. Perfect. So it's just, see how fast this is? If you see these things the right way, this is so much faster than the other methods that we've been using. Here's the square of 3x. 3x times 3x would make that. 5 times 5 would make plus 25. 3x times 5, 15x. And if you double it, you get 30x. We see negative 30x. No problem. We just write 3x minus 5. Let me write it out twice this time for old time's sake. 3x minus 5, 3x minus 5. See this? 9x squared minus 15x a second time would add up to minus 30x, and there's the plus 25. Oh no, 2 variables. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Well, I will calm down. What is this? The square of 4x times 4x makes that. 3y times 3y makes that. Multiply those together, you would get 12xy, and then if you multiply that by 2, you do get precisely what we see in the middle. So there's our a, there's our b. We just write a plus b, 4x plus 3y squared. Okay. There's the square of x, and there's the square of nothing real. You can't square anything and get negative 9. So we're not going to say it doesn't factor. We're not going to worry about factoring it in general. We're just going to say it is not a perfect square trinomial. All these others are called perfect square trinomials because they're all the square of some little expression. So they're all the square of a binomial, to be more precise. Is this one a perfect square trinomial? That's the square of 2x, looking good. That's the square of 3, that's fine. And 3 times 2x is 6x, which is what I see in the middle. And if I'm sleepy or I've had too much coffee, maybe I fall in the trap. But remember, you got to say that times that, and then double it, which would make 12x, not 6x. So again, this is not a perfect, you didn't think I was going to write all those words out twice, did you? Not a perfect square trinomial. And lastly, last exercise here, that's the square of 7x. That's the square of y. 7x times y, 7xy. And double it, you get 14xy. We want negative 14xy. We do 7x minus y instead of 7x plus y squared. And there it is. And there's a little note at the bottom which you should read and consider. Just because something doesn't fit the pattern doesn't mean it's prime, doesn't mean it won't factor. See, this doesn't fit the pattern. That's the square of 3x. That's the square of 5. Multiply those together, you get 15x. Double that, you get 30x. You don't get this. It's not a perfect square trinomial. That does not mean that it's prime. This is the factoring for it. It does factor just like that. That's the end of page 2.